Jonathan Shaw, Entrepreneur Esquire. I am not able to find time in my busy schedule to do the videos that I want to do for this channel. There's like 4 subscribers, and I think it's all my family and whatever. So what I want to do today is start kind of a new little bit of a series, I guess, and just do sort of car talks, as if you're sitting here in the passenger seat and we're just talking about some of this stuff. And for today's video, I want to talk a little bit about making a contract. Like when you start your own firm, how do you put together a contract for services, client-attorney agreement? So I'm going to roll this intro and then we'll talk about it. All right, so how do you come up with your first contract? Several considerations, things to think about. One of the things that I did was sort of kind of heavily based my first version of my contract on the contract that I would use to sign up clients at our old firm when I would bring in cases to my old firm. And so, you know, starting out, I guess that's kind of what you have to do, but also it's super important to be able to look at the local regulations. In my case, I moved from Colorado to Utah, and mostly the rules of professional conduct are the same in a lot of respects, but you know, it's important to check your local rules to make sure you're in conformance with those rules. So that's one thing to consider, right? Make sure first check your rules. Number 2, kind of build off of what you know. You're not going to sit down, open up a Word document, and write from scratch a contract. Like look at the different clauses. Moving forward, I'm actually working through a new version of my contract right now, and what I'm trying to really do is, again, taking into consideration and applying the rules of professional conduct, use it as sort of a place to lay the ground rules for my interaction with my clients. Like that's what it's supposed to be, but the problem is clients never read the thing. It's like weird. They're in front of an attorney, they're going to sign up, but they never read the contract, right? But I'm really working hard on looking at points of contention or conflict, or just, you know, a lot of friction that I've had over the years with clients, and really work that into the contract. So for example, one of the sections that I'm working on a lot right now is a section that talks about how they are unable to choose a team member in my firm. If you're going to hire the firm, you're hiring the firm. You're not hiring me per se. I'm going to be involved in your case. I'm going to be calling most of the shots in your case, but you're going to get phone calls from paralegals, from receptionists. You're going to get an associate attorney going to a couple hearings. Like that's just how it is if you're going to hire my firm. And I'm putting that right up front with an initial line next to it so that they have to initial and understand, because it's a point of friction. Nobody wants any of my staff to touch anything in their cases. They only want me. The problem is, if it were me doing everything, then I wouldn't be able to do anything, right? So that's kind of an example. Look at points of contention, friction that you've had over the years with clients, and try to build those into the contract. Another consideration I would say is, you know, we're attorneys, like we write contracts, I guess. Some attorneys do, whatever. But look, here's an analogy for you. If you're setting up your office and you have to work with an IT guy, and when that IT guy starts to talk to you about stuff, do you have any idea what he's talking about? Like, no, nobody understands, because they just, like maybe you're an IT guy that's good at this, but most people, like in the IT world, have no idea how to communicate with people. They're saying all this technical stuff and you're just lost, right? Well, you know, people signing up with our offices have the same experience. They're just lost in what we're talking about, right? So one of the things I'm working on in my contract is seeing if I can use synonyms or different phraseology or whatever to put up a paragraph or whatever that people can actually understand and comprehend. Because if they're just completely lost in it, it's going to be very difficult for them to understand and abide by those rules when they're working with your firm. Some essential parts in there would be, for example, what I like to do is have, I do flat rate work, right? So if you do family law or other hourly rates, that's going to be different. But for example, in my flat rate cases, let's say I'm doing something for $3,000. Then I'm going to break that thing up into the main stages or the main steps, and then assign under the $3,000 a certain amount to those steps, so that let's say I'm halfway through the case and somebody's going to fire me or move to a different state or whatever, then I know, okay, well, I didn't do the full process for the flat fee. They paid me the whole fee at this point, so here's how much I've done, and then here's how much money I'm going to return to them, because we never got to that, right? So that's kind of how I manage my flat fee sort of cases in this scenario. Other things to consider for a contract, I'm not sure how other firms do it, but the way I usually do this is I will sign the contract, then I'll give them a copy of their contract, obviously, so that they have a copy and they can refer to it and read it. It's kind of interesting to me that when a client comes in, let's say they drop their former firm or they fire their former attorney, and then they get their file and they come in, I have to see contracts from other attorneys, even though, usually the rules of professional conduct don't make it so that we have to give our work product out to people. One of the things that's usually there is a contract, right? So here's another tip, little pro tip. Read through those contracts and steal things from them. See, oh yeah, that works. Oh, I should add this, or I should not add that, or I should change this, right? So when you see those contracts come across when you're talking to clients and looking at documents, maybe grab a copy of it or whatever, or just make a mental note of what you read so you can add those things to your contract. Your contract's always going to be a work in progress. Like, don't think that because you have one set, that's going to be what you need. You know what I mean? It's always going to be a work in progress, because as you move forward in time, there's going to be changes, there's going to be things that happen. A couple clauses that I really like, again, what work is going to be done and the amount of work for it. The other one is the payments, how the payments are going to happen. Is it going to be a retainer fee? Is it going to be payments on a payment plan? Like, how's that going to work out, right? Another one that I like to have in there is about communication. And I know it's not a main contract point, but I like to put in there that communication under the rules of professional conduct on my part needs to be reasonable. And then I even cite the rule if they want to go look it up. And then I put a list of things that are not considered reasonable, like calling the office every single day, or yelling at paralegals or the receptionist, or threatening them to try to get to me, that kind of stuff, and let them know in the contract that if you start to have this type of behavior, I'm going to drop your case. Another good section in there is what to do if the attorney needs to withdraw, or the client wants to fire the attorney, how that's going to work out, what process is going to take place, the billing structure and all that. That's also important. And then another super important clause that you have in there is about privacy and confidentiality. I find a lot of times that we have, especially in my type of work, I do immigration law, and so, DACA cases, deferred action cases, we have young people that are applying for this benefit, and oftentimes we have mom or dad pay. Recently I had a case where the kid's trying to renew his DACA. He's got these new marijuana charges out of California. He doesn't want his parents to know about it. Parents are blowing up our phones because they're the ones paying, and they're trying to figure out why we can't get this thing renewed. What's the trouble that we're having with USCIS? However, there's confidentiality. You're not the client. You might be paying for what's going on, but the son who's getting the benefit doesn't want me, the attorney, to tell his parents about these marijuana charges, and I'm kind of locked in by the contract that I can't do that. So that's just another thing to kind of keep in mind. So those are a few things, but my main point here is, first, look at your rules of professional conduct wherever you're practicing. Second, build off of what you know. Don't try to start from scratch. Don't recreate the wheel. One of the things that you're not in law school anymore, so like plagiarism, that stuff, you're not plagiarizing, you're just building a contract, right? You're not trying to pass this off as like a work product or whatever that's yours. What you're trying to do is just set down some ground rules for your attorney-client relationship. So don't be nervous to look at other pieces of other people's work, grab little bits and pieces here and there, and put together your own contract. And then also understand that it's sort of that theory that we talked about in law school about whether the Constitution of the United States is a living document or if it's set in stone. This thing's definitely a living document. You're definitely going to be editing it over time to address different situations and change different things. It's going to be different for different areas of law. If you're doing personal injury, you're going to work on contingency fees. If you're doing, like I do, immigration, maybe it's going to be some flat fee work. If you're doing divorces, you're going to set it up so you have a deposit or a retainer fee with an hourly amount. So know your area of law, what contracts look like. And, if you're an associate attorney right now and you're jumping out on your own, this might be something you don't look at a lot. When I was an associate attorney, one of the main reasons I actually left my old firm is because I was bringing in so many cases, and I said, basically all my clients think I'm the owner of this firm. Why don't I go be an owner of my own firm? And I had been dealing with these types of issues for a really long time. But this could be a point that's a little bit hard when you're starting out on your own. You haven't really touched contracts before in the past. Just look at other contracts, build your own, look at your rules of professional conduct, and then, you go from there. Make sure you're in conformity with the rules, but also just understand, maybe I left this paragraph out, that paragraph out. Next time I send up a client, I'm going to include this and this, right? And then move from there. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful. I'm hoping that this new sort of format is going to give me the ability to put more videos out there, just because I just don't have time. I'm trying to run my own business right now, and the only time that I have to make any videos is just sitting here on the freeway, driving and talking to you as if you're here in the passenger seat. So You're gonna go with that. Hopefully this video might, just chatting real quick about the contract might help you out.